In the last 5 days, anti-corruption campaigners and agencies across the continent gathered here in Accra in one accord to revitalize the anti-corruption campaign architecture in Africa with key focus on Ghana's accountability journey. Speaking at a high-level conference at the Accra International Conference Center here in Accra, Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabing first underscored the need to broaden lifestyle audit and asset recovery to politically exposed persons and private individuals.
The principle of lifestyle audit, non-conviction-based asset recovery should be stamped in the Constitution to encompass public officers, politically exposed persons, and persons in the private sector suspected of having engaged or engaging in corruption and corruption-related activities. On the reckoning that the person must have legitimate sources of income sufficient to justify the interest in any property that that person holds. Therefore, where a person's resources far outstrip his legitimate income, the unexplained portion should be liable to confiscation. This will be a critical tool also to detect fraud and undeclared income for tax purposes. Thus, conviction after criminal proceedings should not be a condition precedent for asset recovery purposes. That is, proceedings on an application for a confiscation order or a restraint order should be civil and not criminal.
On the raging call for full disclosure of the content of assets declared by government appointees, the OSP says although he supports verification of these assets, he does not support disclosing them to the public.
And I'm coming to disappoint some of you. I do not, and I will not add my voice to calls for the publication of assets for public scrutiny. In our experience, it will be unhelpful and would merely subject public officers to inordinate public curiosity and the specter of the real likelihood of reprisals against their assets. In my estimation, a publication of who has declared or has not declared his assets in the context of a workable asset verification and tracing model would be sufficient to assure the integrity of the asset declaration system. On another score, I dare say, corruption begins where values collapse. That is why integrity must be designed into our educational system, from the basic level through to the tertiary level. And I'm looking at students.
Bemoaning the decline in Ghana's performance on the Global Anti-Corruption Perception Index, Vice President Professor J. Nana Opoku-Agyeman indicated that President John Dramani Mahama is executing some 5 key anti-corruption agenda to turn the situation around.
The appointment of a presidential advisor on the National Anti-Corruption Program, the first of its kind since 1992, represents a strategic approach to coordinating our efforts. This office has identified 5 key areas that will anchor our revitalization efforts, including cooperating between anti-corruption agencies, partnerships with the state interests, and governance authority to ensure integrity, provide assurance of domestic and international communities, proposing legislative and policy reforms, and supporting the Attorney General's office in receiving and processing corruption complaints.
She says the passage of the reviewed Public Officers Conduct Bill is also in line with government's effort to win the fight against corruption. Member of the AUABC, Vaughan Chabia, assured of the board's readiness to help Ghana implement the recommendations from the deliberations.
I would like to assure you that once the review is concluded and the report is finalized, the AUABC will provide recommendations that will respond to the gaps and challenges identified from the review, as we will work with you to ensure the anti-corruption strategies are enhanced and governance systems are strengthened.
James Aveji's report read to you.